You'll have heard by now that electric car sales are falling off a cliff, but how bad is it? And you've also heard people respond to petrol and diesel car bans by saying you'll have to prise the keys from my cold dead hands before I drive electric, or something to that effect. So, are governments really going to force you to dump the pump? Let's take a closer look at what's happening.
Love the Fully Charged show? Join us live in the South this October and in Australia, London and Canada in 2025.
Let's start with the UK. Although many, if not most countries in the Western world have plans to proactively phase out combustion engine cars, the UK's Zero Emission Vehicle mandate is expected to be reinstated to 2030. But is it all it's cracked up to be? Calling it a ban conjures up images of another kind of cliff edge, of combustion cars being seized from their drivers in a state-led communist-style redistribution of wealth. But if you own one, you can relax. You will still be able to buy an ICE vehicle for another 5 years and to run it for as long as you choose. In fact, when you look more closely, this isn't much of a cliff at all, as you'll be able to buy a plug-in hybrid ICE vehicle right up until the stroke of midnight on December 31st, 2034. That's another 10 years. And you'll be able to drive that for as long as it or you are capable of doing so. Conceivably then, you can drive your ICE car up until 2045, or perhaps longer if you look after it. Maybe that doesn't seem so bad. And of course, there will be a market for used ICE cars for decades to come. They're not coming for your classic cars or motor racing either. If you really want to hear the roar of an engine or breathe in the evocative smells from an exhaust pipe, you'll be able to do so at your leisure. The Sun newspaper recently and mistakenly reported that the UK had the target of getting all petrol and diesel cars off the roads in just over a decade. While that seems to be perception amongst some, it is not even remotely accurate. Time for a bit of back of a fag packet maths. Mind you, I haven't seen a pack of cigarettes for some time, but not because they were banned, less people chose to smoke. So you'll have to make do with my mental maths instead. From 2030, car manufacturers will only be able to sell cars with a plug. That's BEVs, battery electric vehicles, or FEVs, plug-in hybrid ICE vehicles. And then, from 2035, this will reduce to BEVs only. As of now, there are about 1.1 million battery electric vehicles on the roads of the UK, with around 25,000 to 30,000 being sold every month at the moment. By 2030, we'd estimate there might be at least 3 million or so on the roads here. But with 35.6 million cars in the UK's car park, that's still less than 10% of all cars on the road. So ICE cars are hardly disappearing off of our streets anytime soon. In fact, even if BEV uptake in the following 5 years is a little faster, as acceptance grows and they enter the mainstream, even then if there are 10 million BEVs on the road, more than 2 out of 3 cars will still be equipped with an engine. Realistically then, even by 2040 and probably by 2045, there will still be a sizable proportion of ICE vehicles in the UK. So the imminent end of ICE cars, as some serial complainers like to proclaim, is an overly dramatic statement. The likelihood is by the time you actually have to hand over your keys, you will likely be very ready to do so. So, what of the plunge in battery EV sales we keep hearing about? Are sales really plunging around the world, or are they plateauing, as we have seen in the UK over the last 2 years? Well, while country by country the picture is mixed, globally year-on-year growth is up 12.4% in the first half of 2024, with more than 4.5 million BEVs sold, and BEV sales now account for 12 in every 100 purchases. A recent study by EV Universe showed that sales are down in 16 countries in the same time frame, but they are up in 36 countries. So the big picture differs wildly to what is reported, where some journalists try to make headlines from unrepresentative small samples. And of course, everything needs context. Germany, which is discussed a lot by the doomsters, has seen a downturn, it's true. But this is in no small part due to the withdrawal of subsidies and incentives. It would be remiss of me not to say that there are of course lots of incentives in place for fossil fueled energy and transport, and there always has been. But note that those that talk BEVs down are less keen to discuss the likes of Norway, Sweden, Denmark and the Netherlands, where battery EV sales have surged. Zooming in, EV uptake in the UK has not stalled, but it definitely flattered out in 2023 and 2024. However, this was not exclusive to BEVs, and was a result of a variety of economic and political factors. In June and July, the percentage of BEV sales have been back up at 19% and 18% respectively. And the used EV market is really starting to get traction, up 52.6% year on year as BEV pricing starts to find its more natural levels. Additionally, one of the major factors in markets where there has been something of a slowdown is the relative lack of affordable BEVs. And it's increasingly obvious that the market for premium BEVs is seriously oversaturated. It's amazing that the BEV market has shown such robust growth with a shortage of more affordable models. This has prevented the majority of consumers from being able to switch. But all of that is about to change as automakers bring more and more affordable options to market. In the UK, the current ZEV mandate agreement will see car makers fined £15,000 per non-compliant car below the target of 22% of new car sales. Another prominent YouTuber recently described this target. He said it's a nightmare. We can see in year one the UK is not going to meet its targets. But this is precisely why a mandate is required. And by the way, many more progressive car makers will not only hit, but exceed that target. All of the car companies have of course known about this for a very long time. And several of course, some infamously so, have lobbied against the zero emission vehicle mandate. Those that didn't are doing rather well. At the time of writing, and with a few months remaining, the industry is missing the target of 22% by only 6%. So when our fellow YouTuber asks why are we missing it so badly, we would say that sounds like a realistic stretch target. He also asserts that something happened and we stalled, arguing that the growth is in plug-in hybrids, but BEV sales outnumber PHEV sales by 2 to 1 year to date in the UK, according to the SMMT. And all data that we've seen from around the world points to consumers much preferring BEVs to PHEVs. Our recent research, and this is echoed by many other similar studies, shows that 93% of BEV owners will never go back to cars with combustion engines, which speaks volumes as to the tech superiority. Of course, there are some companies that are struggling this transition, and in the US in particular, talk of unsold BEVs in dealership lots is based on instances where that is a reality. But again, that's not what's going on in the big picture. Tesla and BYD in particular are selling BEVs in big quantities. Now I know that Tesla has had to do some discounting in the last 18 months to maintain demand growth, but had it prioritised an affordable EV over the Cybertruck, it would have more demand than ever before. Add in the progressive legacy automakers like BMW, Hyundai and Kia, who are getting a big shot in the arm from BEV sales. But of course, in this highly consequential game of musical chairs, there aren't enough to go round, and there are some that are struggling too. Struggling because their existing customer base of ICE fans is less fertile ground for fresh seeds. This is Darwinism in action. Natural selection dictates that organisms better adapted to their environment tend to survive and produce more offspring. In fact, for car companies looking for BEV buyers in their current customer data, it's likely to be a recipe for disaster. Having conducted more than 100,000 BEV test drives globally to an audience of repeat and imminent buyers, we have some experience in this area. Reaching out with mass marketing is fatally flawed too. Even if you have an infinite budget, you are inadvertently making each car less profitable. And as a reminder, only a very, very small cohort of new BEV buyers are emerging month by month. To recap, only 25 to 30,000 are being sold every month at the moment in the UK. And a high proportion of those are repeat buyers. So how on earth do you isolate repeat buyers and imminent first-time BEV buyers? It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. After 14 years of creating a BEV buying community on YouTube, our Everything Electric Expos around the world offer stacks of those needles, thousands of test drives to repeat and imminent BEV buyers at each and every show. So, no matter how many dead cats and red herrings get thrown on the table, we would urge you to keep looking at the big picture on BEV uptake and not be drawn in by an eye-catching but unrepresentative pixel. There are many great sources of information online, and we would say that Fully Charged and Everything Electric is right up there. But when it comes to data, the EV sales tab on Clean Technica is a real treasure trove. And be aware there are many more sources of misinformation out there than evidence-based sources. So when people start saying the combustion ban madness has got to stop, chuck the ZEV mandate in the bin, and in the next breath hype up hydrogen cars, e-fuels and hybrids, you might well ask, are they really the subject matter experts? As argued earlier, it's not a ban, not even close. There is no cliff edge. As for demand, the market has begun to decide, and all of the signs so far show clearly that the direction of travel is all electric. Like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And if you have been, thanks for watching.